This program is brought to you by Community Trust Bank, Medical City, Bid Select, and the Neely School of Business at TCU. Welcome to Platforms, the life-lifting news program for women. Now, here's your host, Shivaun Palmer.
Hey, welcome everybody to Platforms, the life-lifting news program for women. My guest today is Lea Nesbit. Lea is the founder of Celadon Dental, a dental distribution company focusing on marketing European dental products in the United States. She's also a co-founder of Lingual Care, which is a Dallas-based dental technology company that developed and marketed invisible orthodontic braces with operations in the U.S., Germany, and Mexico. She is a member of the Entrepreneurs Foundation of North Texas and serves as an advisor and mentor to several technology and healthcare startup companies. Lea, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Delighted to have you here. You have an amazing background, so I first wanted to start, you had your feet in both worlds, in a corporate world and now as an entrepreneur. So why don't you define for our audience your interpretation of the term entrepreneur?
To me, an entrepreneur is the 21st century version of an adventurer.
I love that. I love that.
It's somebody who's willing to step out of the norm and try something new. And I think that, one of the primary qualities in an entrepreneur is someone who feels a lot of restlessness. They look around them, they're in an environment, they see what's going on, and they think, there's a better way.
Love that, yeah. Because many times it is a gut check, and it's not for the faint-hearted, because obviously you might want to kind of go through bullet points of early stage development and so forth about what you've experienced.
Well, I think for being an entrepreneur, you really have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing.
Yep.
And believe that you can make something better, that you can change something. And most of the entrepreneurs that I know, and I think speaking for myself, that's what defines an entrepreneur, someone that's got that vision and that passion and that restlessness and that desire for change.
Where were you born?
I'm from Nebraska.
Another Nebraska girl. And you majored in political science and got your MBA, but you have a really interesting story about the first job you took. You had the option of going with a very traditional company, or tell us about the experience out in California.
Sure. Coming out of graduate school, I had gotten a job offer from a very large Midwestern grain company, actually. Okay. They're a trading company and a sourcing company. And I had accepted the offer when I got an opportunity to go to California and interview with a small technology company in Berkeley. And being a poor graduate student and never having gone to San Francisco, I thought, oh, wow, it's a free trip, so I'm going to take that. And I ended up going, and over my first plate of Thai food, I was convinced by a very charismatic entrepreneur by the name of Brian Doherty, who's a serial entrepreneur. Brian started 3 or 4 different companies, very successful, to say no to the people at the large grain company and move to Berkeley.
Wow, what a lifestyle change.
Yeah, and be part of this vision that he had. That company was called GeoWorks, and it ultimately went public. And it was a lot of fun. It was very different than anything. I showed up in Berkeley my first day in a little blue suit with my burgundy briefcase and my high-heeled shoes, and everybody else was wearing shorts and flip-flops and playing with silly strings. So it was really different than what I had in mind coming out of my MBA program. But it was great. Great
experience. Now, I know you've also worked for other companies that have not been as successful as GeoWorks, so I know that many times you can learn more from people's mistakes than you can the successes. Why don't you share some examples?
Sure. I've been now with 5 different startup companies. GeoWorks was the first. The second one was a startup company here in Dallas focused on the online travel space. And back in the mid-90s, that was a place everybody was jumping. Everybody was starting internet companies, and online travel was an easy one. It made a lot of sense. And so I got involved with that company and raised money for them, raised $5 million. But I worked for a founder who was not a good fit for me.
Okay.
And discovered the hard way that sometimes oil and water don't mix.
Lea, you raised over $20 million in private financing when you were with a company called Aura Metrics. Why don't we talk about the nuances of raising money? What is your approach to that?
To me, raising money is really about being able to articulate a vision. Okay. I don't have a finance background and I don't have a technology background. But what I am, I think, is a good storyteller. And I'm able to take information and distill it in such a way that people can make decisions and articulate that vision. A lot of times, particularly in technology companies, you have founders that are highly technical, but they can't articulate all the way down the line, what does that technology mean?
Right.
The same with finance people. Finance people can talk to you about, what's the rate of return? How are things going to work from a financing standpoint? Right. but they can't tell you a story. They can't paint a picture and create a vision that people can understand and buy into. And to me, that's what investment partnerships are all about.
Right.
They have to buy in and understand the vision, and you have to have someone who can articulate that.
That is remarkable. You know, you co-founded a company called Lingual Care.
Yes.
Won the Dallas 100 Entrepreneur Award in 2007. You guys sold to 3M in 2007.
Yes.
So as an entrepreneur, I know it's hard to let go when you have somebody come in and buy you, but you stayed on with 3M in a consultancy position, I believe.
I stayed on to run the division for a couple of years,
Okay.
and then integrated into their structure. And yes, it's hard to let go of your baby.
Yep. Yes.
And it's hard sometimes too, you know, when you have an idea of what you'd like to see the company doing, and it doesn't quite mesh with what your parent company has determined. But for me, it was actually very educational. You know, 3M is a fantastic company.
Right.
They are very diverse in their workforce. They're very friendly for women, which isn't true in every company that you meet.
Right.
And so to me, it was a tremendous learning experience. So whatever downside there was much more upside.
Well, it's amazing. You said you have no background in technology or healthcare industry, but you've succeeded in both. And so Lingual Care, how did you and your partner come up with that concept for the orthodontic brace that would go behind the teeth?
Well, actually, when I was working with Orametrics, they had some platform technologies for dentistry, and through that process, I met an orthodontist in Germany that had an idea for this product, but didn't know how to execute it.
It's
from
mainly
a technical
for the adult market? What did you say?
There they use it for kids and adults,
Okay.
but it's a little more expensive, so it is primarily here used for adults. And at the same time, there was a company coming in the market called Align Technology with their product Invisalign. And we saw Invisalign go from 0 sales to $200 million in about 5 years. And we looked at that and said, you know, they can only treat 1 out of 4 patients with that appliance because not everybody can use it. So what happens to the other 3? And so we created a system using a lot of technology, and we brought a lot of high technology to a pretty straightforward process. And we're able to create, you know, these customized braces that went behind your teeth that were very comfortable for patients. And to me, it's always about the customer. You know, what's that in person who's going to use the product? What's their experience going to be like? And so we really focused on that. We focused on the providers that were going to, you know, the orthodontists that were going to use the products in their practices. And, you know, tried to build a good experience all the way through. And I think that's what served us well. So it's not just about the technology. It's about how do you teach people to use it and be successful with it.
Beautiful. Lee, hold that thought. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Lea Nesbit, the CEO of Celadon Dental. This is Shivaun Palmer with Platforms, the life-lifting news program for women. We'll be back in a moment.